Hey guys, Lunch Money Comics here. I'm Mike, this is Jack, and today we are at Marrier's Flea Market in Palmer, Massachusetts, sort of a pre-Brimfield mini flea market. And we've had a lot of luck here in the past, so we're hunting for comic books and all sorts of other cool and collectible things. Let's see what we find. All right, let's go. Jack. Comics. Let's go look. All right, you pick a pile, buddy. I'll pick a pile. Oh my goodness. There's so many. Oh my goodness, look how many there are. You digging, buddy? Anything good? Okay, so these are $2 each. Okay. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Yeah, that's a minor key there. This is the first Amethyst Princess. The preview. I'll grab that one actually.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Jack's still not at the bottom of his box, huh?
I think $20 is fair for that?
That's for one of the bottoms.
Hey, Adventure Time. Cool.
Yeah, because
What's that?
This stuff is fun.
Pokemon free coming?
Yeah. But if you make a pile, we'll keep it going down there. Is that all you're interested in?
There's so much stuff here that I can't even go through it carefully. Oh, that's interesting. Early TMNT. Too bad. So beat up. Oh yeah. It looks like everything in these boxes is modern. Yeah, more or less. Some older stuff. Well, we are off to a great start. Literally, the first table we went to had hundreds of comic books. They were really cheap, and I think we found some pretty great ones. What do you think, bud?
Yeah.
All right, we're just getting started, guys. Let's see if we can find some more. It's weird looking. That's cool. So I'm switching to a voiceover now because this vendor had a radio playing really loud music that I don't have the rights to, but you can see he had a ton of comic books. And when I asked him how much they were, he said he just got them in and hadn't had a chance to price them yet. Still, he had some pretty good stuff. I found these Alex Ross Timeless variants, which are pretty cool if you can get them for a good price. He also had lots of books from the early 90s, including lots of early Simpsons. As a matter of fact, you see here Simpsons #1. He also had a lot of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and other like proprietary things from the early 90s. You see I found one of the TMNT books here. So I definitely grabbed the ones I could find, and I ended up with a pretty large stack of comic books.
Yeah, you got 2, then you got 95, then you got 50.
So we found another vendor with a ton of comic books. We sort of priced them on the fly, which is a little bit of work, but I think we ended up with a pretty great deal for a huge stack of comic books. Pretty excited about these ones, and we're still not done, right, bud? All right, let's keep looking. Very cool. I love these. Hey, Jack. I am your father. Dad joke? Yeah. Sorry. So that's it for this flea market, guys. I think we did pretty good. Now we're going to head home and check out everything that we got. Good job, bud. So there you go. That was Marrier's Flea Market in Palmer, Massachusetts, and it's sort of billed as a pre-Brimfield flea market. What do I mean by that? Well, Brimfield Flea Market is the largest outdoor flea market in America. It comes to town 3 times a year, and every time it does, this Marrier's opens up a few miles down the road the week prior. And even though it is much, much smaller than Brimfield, it sort of fills 2 roles. One, it sort of whets the appetite of any local buyers that just can't wait to buy antiques at Brimfield. They can also get much cheaper prices at this Marrier's Flea Market. And also, it gives some vendors an extra week to sell their wares, especially for these vendors that have come from out of state and they want to make the most of their trip. They can set up at Marrier's, get an extra week of selling. And I always go to this flea market, guys, and I've had a lot of luck finding not only comic books, but other antiques and other things I'm into for a really cheap price. But of all the times I've ever been, I've never, ever seen more comic books than this time. You guys saw in the footage, tons of logging boxes full of back issues, completely disorganized, but that's part of the fun, is digging through these and trying to find treasure. And me and Jack didn't find anything amazing, but I tell you, we had a lot of fun because the thrill of the hunt is absolutely real. So we got a pretty big stack of comic books for a great price. I haven't looked at these since I bought them, so we're going to go through them together on the camera, and I'm pretty excited to do that. So before I do show them to you, if you like this sort of stuff and you want to support the channel, head on down, like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, follow me on Instagram under Lunch Money Comics IG. So the first comic books we found were actually at the first vendor we went to. You guys saw in the footage, there were tons of boxes of comic books. They were not organized at all. They were in stacks and random boxes in most cases. A lot weren't bagged and boarded. They weren't in very good shape, and there were a lot of people shoulder to shoulder digging through them. But I tell you guys, like I said, we had a lot of fun trying to find some good stuff. And the guy was charging $2 a book, but as you'll see at the end, I got them for even cheaper than that. He gave me a deal. So let's go through these quickly, and I'll explain why I picked them up. First, we have the New Defenders number 125. And this one's notable for a couple of reasons. One, look at this awesome painted cover. It's by Carl Potts and Bill Sienkiewicz. I love Bill Sienkiewicz's painted style. I like all the work he did on the New Mutants title, and his style just jumped out to me right away. And this is also notable because of what happens in the comic book. You'll notice the title here, The New Defenders. That's because the original Defenders, Doctor Strange, Namor, Silver Surfer, and the Hulk, stepped down from the team in this issue and lead way for these new Defenders. And we have Beast, Iceman, Angel, Moondragon, Gargoyle, and Valkyrie. I've always liked the Defenders, but I do like this iteration, mostly because there are 3 X-Men in it. Pretty cool looking book, but mostly I got it for the cover. I mean, I can't say no to a Bill S. painted cover. Very cool. This one's kind of funny. This is The Legion of Superheroes number 298. And why this is notable isn't because of what's in the main story. It's because there is an extra 16-page free comic in here, which is a preview of Amethyst, Princess of Gemworld. So who is that? Well, Amethyst is a character that lives in Gemworld, this alternate dimension of like sword and sorcery magic, where everything is sort of named after like gems and things like that. That's why her name is Amethyst. The reason why that's notable to me is that she's also a member of Justice League Dark, or at least has been on some instances since that 2012 Justice League Dark run. And because I collect first appearances of Justice League Dark characters, this is her first appearance, and I had to have it. So it's not a very expensive book. I was happy to pick it up for a little less than $2. But the best part, I got 2 of them. I found 2 of them in the pile. I'm always happy to pick up an extra one. I don't know if I ever want to give it away to someone or something like that. So pretty cool right there. Next up, we have West Coast Avengers number 1, and this is quite simply the first appearance of the West Coast Avengers team. I think most people know who this is. It's a team of Avengers located in California. It's started by Hawkeye, who in this issue is recruiting a new team to operate on the American West Coast. Yeah, they're a pretty cool team with lots of lesser-known Avengers characters headlining it. And yeah, I've always liked this book. Happy to pick it up pretty cheap. This one's funny. This is Time Bandits. What is this? Well, this is the comic adaptation of the Terry Gilliam film from the early 80s. He was a member of the Monty Python troupe. I don't know if people know that, but yeah, he did this movie Time Bandits, which I used to love as a kid. I didn't even know there was a comic adaptation of it, so I had to pick it up. Let me know down in the comments if any of you like Terry Gilliam films or as particularly like Time Bandits. I would love to hear from you. Very cool. So there were a whole bunch of X-Men books in there. They were all pretty beat up, and I owned a lot of them already, so they weren't worth picking up. But there were a couple that I thought were. This is the first one. This is Uncanny X-Men number 168. Great Kitty Pryde cover. And also it's the first appearance of Madeline Pryor, who is Jean Grey's clone, also known as the Goblin Queen. Pretty cool villainess in her own right. Yeah, I mean, I was happy to pick this up. It didn't look like it was in that bad of shape. And then I noticed when I got back to the car, it's in really bad shape. So the back is pretty beat up. Not the best, but still a cool cover. I was still happy to pick it up. Next, we have this one. I've talked about this on my channel before. This is X-Men number 186. This is Life, Death, Part 1, a love story. I've talked about it on my channel a million times. I'm not going to get too much into it, but it's basically a story of just two people. It's Storm, who's recently been depowered as of the last issue, and a newly introduced character of Forge. And they're sort of falling in love with each other while Storm is despondent about losing her abilities, and Forge is feeling incredible guilt because he's the one that kind of depowered her. So fantastic story, one of Chris Claremont's absolute best. Always happy to pick another one up, maybe as a giveaway or something like that. Next up, this is such a cool comic book. I've never seen this book before. This is Power Man and Iron Fist number 100. It's a special double-sized issue. And the reason I picked it up is pretty clear. We have another painted cover, this time by Ernie Chan from 1983. And you see we have Luke Cage, Iron Fist, we got Colleen Wing, Misty Knight, all the characters associated with the Heroes for Hire. Really cool comic book. I thought the look of this was amazing. Had to pick it up. And it's actually in pretty good shape, all things considered. Next up. Oh yeah, so this is Alpha Flight number 3. I've talked in the past about how much I liked Alpha Flight as a kid, Canada's premier superhero team. I'm pretty sure I already have this book. The reason I got it is that this is a John Byrne cover, my favorite comic book artist. Classic, I think it's fantastic, black and white. Just spoke to me, had to pick it up. Next up, we have a What If issue. This is What If number 35, What If Elektra had lived. I used to love What If when I was a kid. In fact, it was one of the titles I bought more than any other. I love the idea of like alternate realities in comic books. And, you know, it has less impact nowadays where we have so many like alternate dimensions and futures and timelines where you kind of see every iteration of a character. But back then, you know, in the 80s, it was kind of a novel idea. In this one here, what if Elektra had lived? Basically meaning, what if Bullseye had not escaped from prison, doesn't kill Elektra? What would then happen thereafter? Cool story. I love the Frank Miller run, so this is kind of a fun little like alt history. However, everyone knows Elektra didn't stay dead, and as a matter of fact, I got the issue where she comes back. This is Daredevil number 190. It's from the year afterwards, and this is when Elektra is revived by the Hand and comes back to life. So, obviously this loses a little bit of weight when you know she comes back, but still, I'm a big fan of Elektra and Daredevil in the Frank Miller run. Happy to pick these both up. Next up, we have Iron Man number 225. This is the first issue of the Armor Wars, or the first Armor Wars, where Tony Stark is combating a lot of, you know, kind of B-list villains that have stolen his Iron Man technology. I think a lot of people know this is being adapted into a TV show or a movie. Still sort of up in the air, but I always find this one really cheap. Happy to pick it up. And then we have this one, another Iron Man, the all-new Iron Man number 174. Great cover right here. Showing all these different Iron Man armors. Now, I've seen this, book before. I don't know if it has any key distinction whatsoever. I really don't know. I just really like the cover. I've seen it before, picked it up. A few more books from that stack. We have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book. This is number 34. It's from September 1990. I like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, even though they're not really like my thing. Like, I didn't like the cartoon that much when I was a kid. I was a little too old. I always respect the comic books because Mirage Studios that published these was right down the street from where I live in Western Massachusetts. And you'll notice it has a different style than the normal Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles books from the 80s and 90s, because this one isn't done by Laird and Eastman. This one was drawn by two other independent artists, Rich Hedden and Tom McWeeny. The art style really jumped out to me. It's got a little a summary explanation of why they did this issue, and you can see their work is very, very interesting. So I thought it was pretty cool. I've never seen this comic book before, and I had to pick it up. It just looked too unique. And finally, there were lots of Silver Age books mixed into these boxes, but none of them were in good shape. Every one I found was just trashed, except for this one. This was the best condition Silver Age book I found. This is The Flash number 180. Shows The Flash fighting the fastest sword in the East. I cannot remember the name of this villain for the life of me, guys. Let me know down in the comments. But yeah, this is from 1968, so pretty darn cool right there. I think it's actually in pretty nice shape. I like The Flash. Happy to pick this one up. So all told, I had 15 comic books I got from this vendor, and instead of $30, he sold them to me for $25. Like I said, nothing amazing in here. A couple cool books I'm interested to, sort of read or add to my collection. But yeah, I really enjoyed digging through these and talking with the other people digging, and I had a really fun time. I think I did pretty good. So the rest of these comics I got from a vendor named Derwin, and he had a big tent full of tons of long boxes of comics, and there were some pretty good ones in there. However, when I asked him how much the comics were, he said he just got them in and he hadn't had a chance to price them yet, and he would look them up on the fly, which always makes me nervous because, you spend a lot of time going through these boxes, pulling out all these comics you like, and you might not like the price that you get. However, he was a great guy. We had a fantastic conversation, and he gave me a great bulk deal for everything I got. So let's jump into it. First, we have Secret Wars number 1. This is the Jonathan Hickman Secret Wars from 2015. And those of you who are familiar with the storyline may realize that this is a different cover than usual. All the other covers of this run were done by Alex Ross, but this is a GameStop variant by Greg Horn. I've never seen this variant before. It's still in the poly bag with the price tag from GameStop. Yeah, I'd never seen it before, and I really like the storyline, and he ended up giving it to me for a pretty cheap price. So happy to get this and add it to my Secret Wars stash. Awesome. Next up, we have a couple of X-Men books from the 90s. We have Uncanny X-Men number 316. This is part of the Phalanx Covenant storyline. Basically, this is a storyline where the X-Men are fighting a techno organic alien. Doesn't really matter. All you gotta know is that it crossed multiple X-Men titles like X-Force and Wolverine. They all had this, hologram stripe down the side, which those of you who collected in the 90s know they really liked their foil and chrome on comic books. But another cool thing is a lot of these comic books in the storyline were precursors to the next generation of X-Men, the Generation X. And a lot of the characters that show on these covers, it was their first appearance. And that's the case with this book. This is Monet St. Croix, who is an X-Men character, a mutant, usually called M. She's a pretty cool character in her own right. This is her first appearance, and I collect first appearances of X-Men. And just like I said, everyone that was in this storyline follows the same sort of template. Here we have X-Men number 317, the very next issue, and you are introduced to the character of Skin right there. Another mutant who has really stretchy, weird skin. Kind of gross, but a cool character from the 90s nonetheless. I already had these books. Whenever I can find them cheap, though, I'm happy to pick up more first appearances of X-Men. Next up, my son picked this one out. He knows I love Spectre and the Dead Man. He pulled this out for me. How could I say no? This is Secret Origins starring Spectre and Deadman, number 15. It's two different stories that retell their origins. Because I love both these characters, how could I say no to this? I also love green covers. I don't know why. No brainer. Thanks, Jack, for pulling this one out for me. All right, we have a couple more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles books. Now, I'd never actually seen these before. Like I said, I find lots of TMNT out here in Western Massachusetts. And I know a lot of friends of mine who collect these. So I was happy to pick up a couple of these. This is Eastman and Laird's Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 2. This one's from 1987. And I'm not sure if these are retellings of the older TMNT stories from the 80s or not. You see all the turtles here on the cover, have the same color bandanas. That was a convention in the beginning before they got their 4 different colors. Still, I thought it was a cool looking book, in great shape. Happy to grab it. Same thing with this one. This is same thing, TMNT number 11, also from 1987. Yeah, same thing. It's a cool looking book. Again, it might be a retelling. I'm not sure if it's a unique story or not, but I was happy to pick it up really cheap. Let me know if any TMNT fans out there are familiar with these 2 comic books. I'd love to hear from you. So these last 11 comics all belong to the same series. You saw them in the footage, and they are these. So what these are Alex Ross's timeless series of variant covers. That's a mouthful. So Alex Ross, for those of you who don't know, is a very famous comic book artist who paints. And he's fantastic. Like I mentioned, he did the Jonathan Hickman run of Secret Wars. But way before that, he was doing incredible work on Marvel and DC superheroes. And I first knew of him in the 90s when he did the Marvels series. And it blew my mind as a kid because it was the first time I realized you could, draw a superhero not using pencils. You can paint that superhero and they look fantastic. A lot of people like him. And what he did back in 2020 and 2021 is he did these variant covers where each one is a different painted portrait of a Marvel superhero. And what's kind of funny about these is that the comic books that these are variants of really are just kind of random. Like they're just random X-Men issues or Excalibur or Avengers or Fantastic Four. And they just put a different variant cover depicting a character on the front. So these are all from 2020, 2021. He also did, this past year, a Super Villains series. And I think they're all awesome, guys. I think they look great. These are the kinds of books like you could put them on your wall on a shelf, and I think they look really, really neat. So I kind of quickly organized these by superhero team, and let's go through them and let me know what you think. First, of course, we have the man himself, Thor, pretty great there. Looks pretty godly. Then we have one of my favorites, Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, very awesome. We have the Falcon right there with a Red Wing. We have one of my favorite characters, Doctor Strange, looking great. Easily one of my favorites, Daredevil, one of my favorite covers in this stack right here. We have a couple of Inhumans coming up. We have, of course, Black Bolt, and then his wife, Medusa. And then we're going to round this up with some X-Men. We have Jack's favorite X-Man, Cyclops, right here. It was funny when he looked at it, he says, why does he look so sad? And it reminded me of a good friend of mine, Dan, who said it's a sad Clops face. Sad Clops covers. He's always sad, but still very cool looking. Then we have Iceman. Excellent. Colossus looking fantastic. And finally, of course, my favorite, Nightcrawler himself, Kurt Wagner, my favorite character of all time. Guys, I judge a lot of artists on how they do Nightcrawler. I think he always kind of has to look scary, so you can really juxtapose that with how great his personality is and how nice he is. I don't like it when they make Nightcrawler look too normal. I like it when he looks creepy like this, sheathed in shadows. He looks awesome with the glowing eyes. Definitely my favorite one. Now, these comic books, again, they're not really like key issues. They're just known because of the variant covers, but they can go anywhere from between like $5 and like $10. Some of the really rarer ones, I think, are more. And originally, he said he wanted to sell these to me for $4 a piece. Which I thought was probably fair, but we ended up doing a package deal altogether. We added up all of these books, and we came up with a price tag of somewhere in the 60s, almost $70, and he came down to $50. So I got all of these for $50. Now, I know what you're thinking. Maybe that still doesn't seem like a great deal to you. That's because I actually got more comic books than I'm showing here. I have 5 more comic books over here that, trust me, are all $5 to $10, and they're awesome. But I can't show them to you guys. I'm sorry, because all of them are either for a giveaway or they're for a gift for someone that I'm gonna send them to, someone in the comic book YouTube community. So I don't want to give it away on my video right now. Just trust me, I got all of these plus several more great ones for a great price of $50. I think that's pretty cool. Like I said, I think these variant covers are awesome in their own right. I would have been happy to pay, the $4 each for them. But yeah, I think all around I got a pretty awesome deal. Very happy with all of these. So there you go, guys. All told, I got somewhere in the neighborhood of like 40 comic books, all for less than $2 a piece. Like I said, nothing amazing, but definitely a few key issues in here. Definitely some books I wanted to add to my collection, some that I'm going to read. And I had a lot of fun with my son digging these out, and that's sort of the point. That's the best part about going to these flea markets, guys, and hunting for treasure. I had a blast. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the footage too. Head on down to the comments and let me know which of these comic books you like the best. And in the meantime, I hope you keep hunting for comic books in strange and unusual places like flea markets. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.